Hello, Cleveland and Cavs fans, wherever you may be. You're tuned in once again for another episode of Too Deep in the Queue. We're going to be talking Cavaliers. We're talking about the week behind us, the week ahead, and we'll kind of dabble on some other subjects as we go. I'm your host, Jeff Rich, alongside Anthony Jokey. Coming off a pretty bad home loss on Martin Luther King Day night. Defending champs come in, complete their sweep of our beloved Cavaliers, 132-98. And Anthony, man, tell me why I shouldn't just fold up shop and start waiting for opening day in Cleveland if I'm a sports fan.
Well, it is just one game, and if we see them again, it's not going to be until the NBA Finals since we do not play them again. The NBA, it's a long season. The team has a long way to go to gel together. I mean, Kyrie's on his 10th game back, so there's still a long ways to go for this team to completely gel. Plus, you have the trade deadline coming up, and we may add a piece here or there, and we'll see how it goes.
Besides that, they had a pretty long road trip. They didn't go all the way out to the West Coast, but this was, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, a 6-game trip that included the Texas Triangle. I would say that the week before, more so than this week, they're going to play Brooklyn on Wednesday, and then they do. Have another home game against the Clippers, and really a pretty decent homestand. The Clippers, the Bulls, the Timberwolves, and the Suns all coming in before they go to Detroit on the 29th. So what you think of the whole Texas Triangle? A good win over Dallas, pretty competitive game over against the Spurs. They lose that game and kind of took it out on Houston on Friday night. Come home and Seth Curry's running his mouth about stale champagne or whatever. And they just never really got out of the gate. You live tweeted that at MTAF Cleveland the other night. As you were following along, is there anything to take away from that game other than just trying to put it behind us?
That they have a lot of work to do. I mean, they were running all over the place trying to guard Curry. They were not very disciplined guarding that three-point line. They just let these guys have wide open shots all over the floor, not even contested. It was a complete struggle all night long to get a hand in their face.
Is there a personnel move that they can make to maybe remedy the problems that they faced? I mean, I know that it was kind of an unmitigated disaster, but is there a piece that they need to add to defend the perimeter to be able to play with Golden State, or did you kind of rob Peter to pay Paul in the case that you're ramping up for Golden State, who you won't see unless you play them in the NBA Finals? And it's very possible that San Antonio could be a better team over a 7-game series than the Golden State Warriors when they match up to head-to-head, which is, I would feel it's inevitable, but the West Coast is pretty, or the Western Conference is a little bit brutal.
Yeah, I mean, those teams are going to take care of themselves, and whichever one gets through, it's going to be a tough matchup just for the fact they're going to be fatigued. But as far as adding a piece, I think they will add someone, maybe another wing defender to pair along with Shumpert. But they also need to look at their lineups a little more. I mean, when they throw out their starting lineup of Kyrie and JR, you're sacrificing defense for offense. When they substitute in Delly and Shumpert, you're taking away your offense, adding in defense. I would really like to see them pair maybe Kyrie and Delly, or Kyrie and Shumpert, maybe even turns into starting Shumpert over Smith, just so you have that kind of offense, defense along the perimeter.
And they can get away without with the deficiencies that you get with Shumpert versus JR on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, they can kind of make the fact that Shumpert's not really a scorer go away because they have so many other assets on the floor, do they not?
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Okay, looking at the week ahead, looking at the next 7 days anyway. Brooklyn at the let's see, it's Brooklyn at the Barclays Center, and then they're home for the Clippers, Bulls, and T Wolves. Before they host Phoenix on Wednesday the 27th. Is there anything they can prove? Anything they can get done in those games? I think that the game on Saturday against Chicago, it's an ABC game. It's a primetime game, NBA Saturday night. Um, the Bulls got them on opening night, but I don't think that really told the tale of how this season would go. When you look at a team like Chicago or really anyone in the East, is there anyone that sticks out as a threat given what we did see Monday night against the Golden State Warriors?
I think there's really only two teams that match up well with them, and that's the Bulls and Miami. Miami has that powerful presence underneath the basket that can mess with the Cavs, and Chicago, they're a good team. I mean, their record may not show they're the best, but they're pretty well up there as long as Derrick Rose stays healthy.
Okay, this is year two of the big three. Obviously you have LeBron, Kyrie. Kyrie and Love are signed for the long term. LeBron is basically signed for the long term, but we're in year two of what could be a 5 or 6 year experiment or five or 6 year exercise in trying to win an NBA championship. From year one to year two, what do you think of the bench? Because it seemed like we were hemorrhaging anytime we had to go to the second unit a year ago. Has David Blatt and Tyronn Lue gotten that under control, or is that still something of a problem for the Cavaliers, just trying to stop the bleeding while resting their starters?
You know, when they send out Mo and when they send out Delhi, they have two good players off the bench there. It would be nice to see maybe someone a little better than Richard Jefferson. I know he's kind of up there in age, and he still maybe just has a little bit left in the tank, but he would be someone I would look at replacing just to help guard the perimeter a little bit better.
Okay, Anthony, this is an abbreviated episode. It's just a test run, so we're going to kind of start taking it home here. I did this with Chris Poltrone. You two will be together when these shows go live in about a month here. But it's time for the wine and gold segment, and this is where we find something to whine about because there's always something to whine about. And, the gold is who gets the gold for the week on the Cavaliers or within the Cavaliers organization.
Who gets a goal this week? That's a very good question. Um, I might have to give it to Mozgov, even though he played very little on Monday. He always tends to show up well against Andrew Bogut, and I thought he played pretty well. Problem is when Golden State goes small, they kind of nullify him completely, and they have to take him out of the game. But I thought he played pretty well on Monday.
All right, and what do you got to whine about?
The NBA schedule is it baffles me sometimes how they schedule these games. I mean, you go from Washington to Minnesota to Philly. I mean, you would think that in their right minds they kind of keep them in order in terms of geography, and then to head down to Texas. But that's a really long and brutal road trip for a team, and then to schedule the defending champions right after that road trip. That's rough.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think that's a really good point. I didn't really think of how long they were on the road. You had that Texas Triangle, the Philly game. You almost forget about Washington. There's a little bit of history with the Cavaliers in Washington, though none of the other than LeBron James, there's really none of the original cast of characters is still around. But it seems like the Bullet/Wizard fan base. Really has it out for the Cavaliers, especially on social media. I don't get involved with that stuff, but, you do run the MTAF Cleveland account from time to time. So I assume you're on Twitter the rest of the time as well. Do these Washington fans have a leg to stand on when they talk to Cavaliers fans?
I mean, there's no doubt John Wall is a great player, and their contention is that Wall is better than Kyrie. I don't see it, but he's more of an all-around point guard, and Kyrie's more of a scorer. But when it comes to head-to-head, Kyrie's got him every time. He seems to leave Wall in the dirt. Wall can't keep up with him. So I don't know what they see and why they have a gripe, but I I don't get it.
All right. I mentioned that they'll be playing in prime time Saturday night NBA action on NBC or on ABC against the Chicago Bulls this Saturday, the 23rd. That they will actually be in that prime time slot for ABC Disney 2 weekends in a row. They're going to complete their season series with the San Antonio Spurs at home. Do they have anything to prove? It is the back end. It is the back end of a back-to-back after playing a road game in Detroit.
As far as proving something, they need to come out with some fire. It doesn't matter if they win the game or not. I'm assuming they will win the game, but they came out Monday flat, no energy, and I'm guessing it might have something to do with the road trip. But they need to show some heart against the Bulls this Saturday.
They need to show heart against the Bulls. They need to show some heart against the Spurs. They can afford to take games against Phoenix off, but if they lose those games, it's not like we just forgive those games as they don't matter. So it's almost like a lose-lose. I mean, you win, you're supposed to. You lose, what the hell's going on with the Cavaliers? It'll be interesting to follow along. I mean, it's an 82-game season. They should be better than the rest of the East. They might have to go on the road for a 2-2-1-1-1, just like they did last year to Oakland against Golden State Warriors. And I'm going to stand pat and say that I think that it's San Antonio that comes out of the West, but a lot of games left to be played. The more important ones start in April, so we'll see what happens there. Hey, we're swimming back into the shallow end, but no need to fear. We'll be right back here talking Cavaliers basketball. Too deep in the queue. Next week or sometime in the future, as the case may be. For Jeff Rich, pardon me. For Anthony Jokey, I'm Jeff Rich. This has been Too Deep in the Queue.